And that is, in the first place, because the church is heavenly and spiritual, unearthly, not belonging to this world, although it is called to live in the world for a time. And the heavenly we can only apprehend by faith. In the second place, it's the object of faith, because even as the church exists in the world, it doesn't look like a holy church, like a unified church, like a Catholic church. We can't see that. If we look at the church as it exists in the world, we say to ourselves, the church is splintered into 10,000 pieces. How can we say, I believe in one church? If we look at the church in the world, we say, all I see is sinful people who claim to be members of the church, but who so frequently do not live any different from the way the world lives. How can I say I believe in one holy church? And in the third place, we in our congregation here in Ballymena really have no conception of what the Catholic Church is and how the Lord has his church in every nation and tribe and tongue. A church just like ours. A church that believes the same things we do. A church that walks in the world as citizens of the kingdom. Doesn't look that way. And so we must remember the doctrine of the church is an article of faith. I believe. I cannot see. I see quite the opposite. But I believe one holy Catholic Church. And in the third place, the Catechism points out that although the church is an object of our faith, faith is always very personal. It's not simply a matter of appropriating an intellectual proposition, but it is a personal matter of the heart. And that's why the Catechism adds those beautiful words, and that I am. Faith says that, you understand? And that I am, and forever shall remain, a living member thereof. That's a beautiful question and answer. We can hardly do justice to it in one sermon, but we must do the best we can. I call your attention, therefore, to this question and answer under the theme, Faith in the Church of Christ. Notice in the first place, the election of the church, which is referred to in the Catechism. It's a church chosen to everlasting life. In the second place, the gathering of the church. And in the third place, our faith in the church. As far as the election of the church is concerned, the doctrine of election stands clearly written on almost every page of Holy Writ. Nevertheless, you can believe the doctrine of election only if you believe in the absolute sovereignty of God. The doctrine of election is very, very frequently denied by almost the whole church world. And it has been denied throughout the entire history of the church. From the time of Augustine and his battle with the Pelagians and the semi-Pelagians who denied the election of the church as a sovereign work of God. It was denied by the Roman Catholics who established the institute of Roman Catholicism as being the church, the only church, the true one holy Catholic Church. It is denied by the Arminians. It is denied by all those even within Reformed circles who speak of a conditional salvation. That is why, for example, the liberated churches, with their profound commitment to conditional theology, want nothing to do with the doctrine of election. They divorce election from the covenant and say election is of no concern to us. It belongs to the hidden things of God. And only we are concerned with those things revealed. But election is revealed in the Scriptures. The truth of election and its importance is given to us on almost every page of Holy Writ. By election, the Scriptures mean that from the beginning, that is, from before the foundations of the world, before creation, eternally in the mind of God, he determined to save to himself a church. He determined that freely and sovereignly. That is, he was under no obligation, either by any force outside of himself or by anything within his own divine being, to choose a church. He did not need a church to make his glory greater. He did not need a church to glorify himself in a fuller sense than without a church. He freely, sovereignly, in his own heart and mind, determined to save a church. When he determined that because it was his sovereign purpose eternally to reveal the infinite riches of his own divine being and all his glorious attributes by a church whom he would save from sin and death. And therefore, in the second place, the church is chosen in Christ, as Paul puts it in Ephesians 1, verse 3, according as he hath chosen us in him from before the foundations of the world. There is no church apart from Christ, and there is no Christ apart from the church. Christ and the church are one, together the objects of eternal election, the way in which God eternally determined to glorify himself. That church which God chose in Christ is a definite and specific number of individual people. He didn't generally and in a vague and indefinite way decide to save some people if they proved to be worthy of his favor or if they performed some work which made them in some way fitted to be among the elect, or even if, as the Arminians say, they would accept the gospel and receive Christ into their hearts. Oh, no, 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 none of that at all.